the same? Now I'll repeat that question again so everyone can hear it. How do we excel in our career, entrepreneurship, without feeling guilty that our spouse is not doing the same?
Yeah, and I've heard of some examples like that where some spouses are intimidated by the growth. I think the first thing is, before you get married, make sure you're equally yoked with that person. That's the first thing. And yeah, they may not be where, and I'll use my marriage as an example. My husband, when he proposed, and I hope he's not watching this, when he asked me out, he said he worked for a food manufacturing company, and I was here, I was still in college. And I said, what's the name of the food manufacturer? He said, McDonald's. And I said, really? But anyway, that was when we were still in college. That was his job, because nothing wrong with working at McDonald's, but I could tell that he was trying to, impress me. But I think that it's absolutely, if you believe in yourself, right, as a woman, and you have a spouse that is probably not where you are financially, find that thing that they have that is super great and boost it. That's what it is. So for example, yes, he may be staying home with the kids, and he's not bringing the money in, or the woman, she's not bringing money in. What is that? There is something that person is doing that you can amplify. So by making them feel approved, and also praising them. Now, there are some people, no matter how much approval or amplification you give them, they're still going to have a problem. But at that time, you just have to believe in yourself, and you have to keep going, and you cannot give up. And you can't say, well, because your light's not shining, I'll go ahead and cover mine. I am pulling my light outside of that bushel, and I'm going to shine bright. And then maybe with prayer and fasting for you, you will join me. But I'm going.
That's good.
So there's another question here, and panelists, this is going to be open for you to be able to answer this one. We know we want more and can achieve more, but our spouse may not have the same philosophy, and soon not sure how we will respond to yours and how he will respond to your success. So Rory, I think this is kind of piggybacking on your question and just opening it up even more to the ladies on the panel, just to be able to see any other thoughts on how this person can be able to handle their spouse as they move forward.
Who wants to take it? Nana, Courtney?
I mean, some of it is that are we projecting on the spouse? Sometimes we women just like to carry on guilt for no reason. Maybe has your spouse actually told you that they're not, is there a sign from your spouse that he wouldn't be supportive? Or is that something that you're, like a burden that you're carrying and then trying to project onto your spouse? So that's one thing that you need to consider. And I feel like as women, we actually don't ask for what we need. Because my husband tells me that all the time, I need his help. I'm going around crying about, so many things. And he just says, well, just ask. You haven't asked me, What can I do for you? And even when he asks, I start thinking about it, I'm like, it's too confusing. You don't know where to teach you this. And it's like, well, because he just, he feels like I want to do it all. But they're there to help us. Sometimes this question also assumes that your spouse is supposed to be higher than you. You're making the assumption that you shouldn't do better than your spouse. There's nothing wrong with you doing better than your spouse. Just because he's a man doesn't mean, and it's always it's a relationship. You're doing better because he was there to support you. So it's not that he didn't do anything, And so we also need to maybe change the narrative for ourselves, about how we want our spouses involved in the work that we do and how open we want to be to receive them. It's true they may not do it the way that the way that you would have done it, but most times they're ready and available to do it. And sometimes I complain, I'm like, you left our children here. It's like, they're my children too. And then I think, that's true. He didn't mean harm for them. So part of it is, as much as we want to claim independent, strong women, it's somehow deep in us. There's this thing that's been ingrained that we can't rise higher than a spouse, or that we should remain just a little bit, just a notch down, or that they can't help us. So I think maybe one place to start is just to reassess your underlying assumptions. And if your spouse is not, let's say he's clearly not supportive, sometimes I think about the ways that I've not supported my husband. He's gone into businesses that I didn't like, and I was very vocal about it. So it's always nice when, but think about yourself and how you've been. So sometimes it's good to put yourself in their position. They have reasons for not supporting you that is not just jealousy, or it's not what you think it is, which I know it's hard to accept when you're going through it. But I would say that you should also try to be a little bit self-reflective, because I was really harsh on my husband when he opened a restaurant. I didn't like it. I just thought, yeah, you have no business doing this. And now I'm on a journey that's been the hardest, and he's been so supportive, and I almost have no business doing this either, but he's been there. So it's sort of, I've had to question myself and go back and think about, the ways that I really did do him wrong, not letting him carry out his own passion and just being down on him. And then if you're just a saint and the man still doesn't want to support you, you can't change a person. You can, and I don't think it's right to also spend your life trying to prove something to somebody. I know people always, you can use it as fuel to get to your goal, but I don't think you should spend time trying to prove to this person, because that's when you're clearly going to fail, because then you lose your path and you're just trying to prove that this thing is going to work, and you're not thinking straight anymore. So I just think it's sort of multi-layered.
Kind of picking on amplifying what Laura said about figuring out the things that in the relationship and how to amplify that. But your key about the communication, right? The communication about, sometimes we don't take on things because we say that our spouse would not be supportive of our partner, and that's our own fear about what if this goes big, and what if I have to travel, or what if I have to do stuff. So we kind of like, oh, I don't think they'll support you. Have they actually said they're not going to be supportive? Are they willing to do different things within the roles and help out? And you hear a lot from divorced dads or single dads where that for the first time they actually felt vital. When you talk about how we want them to do things our own way, they're like, when the kids actually spend time with me on my weekend or stuff, I'm doing homework, I'm cooking with them, at the table with them, I'm the one that does the soccer run, which I never got to do in the household because it was your way, or so allowing them to actually do things, but also the communication, even if it is stated as to why. Why is that person threatened by your success? Or, this is assuming that it's not in your head, they've said it, you've taken that next step. And a lot of it has to do with socialization and what the expectations are. And if everybody in his peer group is telling him, your wife is, she's going to be CEO of stuff, that's the thing you have to, talk about and figure out, well, that's where it's coming from. If those external influences is why that's a thing that he has to deal with, and say, I'm supporting my spouse in this and this. So really an open communication about why this is a role, what may change when you take on this role, and how they can support you, and I think communication is really important.
I agree, communication is really key, because even if it's not a spousal situation, being able to communicate with people who you're working with in business or other things is just so key. And I remember hearing a word just saying, just keep talking, until you're able to come to some ground and meet somewhere in the middle. Thank you, ladies, for that. And Dr. Yabo now has a question that she'd like to read to us.
Yeah, so this is from a lady's question from earlier. It's kind of related to what we're discussing now, but on a different level. And I'll give a short answer on what I think, and then we'll go ahead to the other speakers. So she asks, where can we find marital resources consistent with the African cultures, like counseling and mediation and therapy? And what I just want to say to that is, I would change that question with consistent with the human culture. Honestly, and I may be wrong, and there may be people that think that we should get counseling consistent with the African culture. I don't. We can have different thoughts about it. It's the same everywhere. It's if you're too culture focused, you may make a lot of mistakes. That's what I think. I think counseling, marital, again, some of us African women, we buy into that culture too much, and it actually hinders us from doing the things we need to do. Marriage is a partnership. It's back and forth. You fill me up, I fill you up back. You love me, I love you back. It's not that you wait for them, but you give, of yourself. So I don't think, and the person's name is in here, but I don't think all those resources should be specific for African, Asian, Caucasian. Yeah, it's just human focused, but that's my answer. If anybody else wants to. Yeah, so she's asking about, should it be consistent with the African culture, things like counseling and mediation and therapy, or not?
I agree with you, Yabo. I agree, and with also it would help also to have some context. So if you have a therapist who has some context of the situations in which you're operating, some of the generalizations and socializations in your culture, it helps. I agree. First of all, we have to accept that therapy is a good thing. Therapy is amazing, especially if you're going to therapy to maintain your mind, therapy for your children if they need it, family therapy, marital therapy. It's important. And therapy doesn't have to be sit on the couch, talk to someone. If therapy comes from your church, if that's how you get it. If therapy comes from a trusted friend, that's how you get it. If therapy comes from a licensed clinical psychologist, and that's what you need, the taboo has to be gone. Now, if somebody understands the cultural context in which you're operating, some of those norms, it helps in terms of framing some of the advice and some of the action steps that you might be able to take in real time because of understanding that. But I agree absolutely that the human need and what we need and the access to therapy is something that we all need, regardless of where we are. But the situations are, sometimes different because of the socializations and the generalizations and the operating norms within our society. But I absolutely agree with Yabo, because if it's therapy within that context, so you've already boxed out the frames of that therapy. You can't exceed the African culture and how we do things. So give me therapy so I can operate with that, not in the broader sense and all the resources. And then they just did a taboo issue, right? On including therapy, and I just passed it on to you. Yeah.
But yes, our latest issue is a taboo issue, and it's addressing things like this, which I sort of understand the question that you want a therapist who understands the context of where you're coming from, but beyond that, we can't be giving our people too much of a pass that, it's culture, so we should, we should be able. So one of the things I also want to throw back to you guys is to also lift up your men who are doing things right.
Yes.
So other women will know. So when the African women go looking for their men, they know that those men that they want also exist. So my men like my husband, and even when things end in divorce, it's not a cultural thing.
Correct.
It wasn't because of culture. He's also a good man.
Correct.
Looked at
we have an amazing co-parenting agreement. Yeah.
So, but these men exist, so there's no need to let culture force you into a marriage that is not worth it. And yeah, that's what I have to say. Please talk about your good man. My husband has been, obviously the culture comes into play often, but we know the society that we live in. Right now he's with the kids. We have a tournament all day. I can't be there, so he's the one doing what he needs to do. And he's, my husband is a physician, so it's not like he's busy too, so he's got things to do. And I remember one instance, this is a story I tell all the time, when I was working with the CDC and I was in Tanzania, my son was just a year old, and I had to take him with me. And, when we had the conversation, I'm like, wow, this is really not going to sit well with your friends. People would say, which is the other thing I hate, you let her go with why did you let her go? And he told me, he said, well, what we talk about in our bedroom is our business, and what they talk about in their in their bedroom is your business. So our business is you're going, And even when I got the offer and I called, he said, well, say yes, we'll figure it out later, So these African men, they exist. And he has friends that are like him, that are reasonable. They're reasonable. We're all trying to work these things. I'm sure there are ways where my own culture comes into play too, and he has to temper me down. But just don't feel like you have to accept somebody just because of culture,
That's awesome. That's great stuff. And as you were sharing too, I just kind of wanted to throw this in too. We're spirit beings.
That's right.
And before we're cultural. And in order to be able to relate to people, regardless, we should be able to relate to whatever our different cultures are, and be able to communicate and cross lines to be able to communicate with all people and to love people. So whether that be, again, just to balance that out, marriages or business, being able to communicate, knowing that we are first a spirit being, that we just happen to live on different continents. But yet, like in this room, we have been brought together for such a special time as this. So Courtney, this question is for you. How can one simplify life? Can you give us some tips to be organized at home?
Ooh, how can you simplify life? My goodness. So you're saying this from a clinically diagnosed ADD person. So I know what it means, and I have to work through this. Okay. Something that I have had to recently, with being a new business owner, and tasks are very daunting very easily, right? So you had a list of to-dos, and my sticky notes were all full throughout my whole desk area, and I realized, I was like, you know what are some things that are just not necessary? And not even that they're not necessary, but not necessary right now. Because everything for me is, especially in the climate that we're in our society, urgency, right now, if you're not, you're missing out, boo, somebody else is gonna get to the first place before you do. And so for me, I had to really realize that I will arrive when the Lord is ordaining to arrive and stuff. I don't have to rush my way and get to the finish line, because if I did it in my own timing, it would be a thwarted finish line anyways. So practically for me, what I have to realize is in the beginning of the day, I have to prioritize what is first. Truly, what is first? What is most important? Is it my health? What do I need to fit in my schedule? Because if not, it will be neglected. So making a very specific list of your tasks, as seemingly small as they may appear to be. It's I don't need to say to go take a walk or to eat lunch. Are you kidding me? How many of us have missed lunch because we're just going a million miles per hour? So in order for you to do that, and plus it keeps us on a schedule, and we don't miss things that we need to be investing into, time with children, our husband, for me, it's I need to schedule this time. I need to be intentional, right? And a huge thing, which I'm a huge advocate for, is our social media and the health that we have on social media. Is really easy to abuse the system and to create a really negative space for not only ourselves but for other people. And so I make it intentional. I've talked to some people out there, as well as a little bit in here, of setting a time, being really intentional about making sure the time that I'm on there is life-giving, not life-taking. And that doesn't just mean what I'm projecting, but also what I'm receiving from people. So I don't aimlessly scroll anymore, and this comes from somebody who's dealt with anxiety and depression, and so I have to be really intentional about how I use every single platform. And so I schedule a time of how I'm going to invest on each platform, and then that's it. That's it. If I'm exceeding, then we'll put it in another schedule for a different time. And that way it keeps me, again, on task, but also it allows me to take more control over my headspace and my mentality and the way that I'm walking in my posture. So I would say those are some big things, because I don't know about y'all, but social media is taking over just the majority of our time period. And so I really try to press that even for our younger generations, that we have to be really conscious of how we deal with those in our health, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And then also to know that what we put out there matters, and people are watching, and people are being inspired, or people are feeling guilt due to the fact of what we put out there. So to really be just forward thinking about what we project, because it lasts, our footprint is really strong. And so to take ownership of that, I think, is one of the biggest things.
That's great, Courtney. And I loved what you said about just what are things that are life-giving. And if it's not life-giving, perhaps that's not a necessity that we need to have on our list of things for our day. So thank you for that. Our next question is for Dr. Iyabo. If your business is not growing after 1 year, should you quit?
No. No, not yet. So that's a multi-layered question. It depends on the kind of business. It depends on your money situation. Did you use your personal money? Have you sold your house? Do you still have money? But 1 year is too short for you to quit. And I'm not sure who wrote that question. If you want to be anonymous, please remain anonymous. But I'd like to know what kind of business it is. But 1 year is too short. When I opened my medical practice 15 years ago, I was actually waiting. Because everybody had told me it was going to take 2 years. I built it up from scratch. There were no patients on day one, 0. But by 9 months, I was seeing 15 patients. Even though people had told me, you'll have to wait till about 2 years, 2.5 years before you really start breaking even and seeing 15, 20 patients. But who has it? You had it? Yeah, same with me. I'm OCD, and I was out there marketing myself. I would go to schools when the parents were picking up their kids in the carpool line. There would be a sign there, no soliciting. I had my business cards and my brochures, and I'm just, my practice is around the corner. I broke all the rules. I'm not saying you should break rules, but do what you need to do. I went to all the OBGYN offices myself. I went to all the pharmacies, and I was going back until they said, you know what, we've seen you too many times. And by 9 months, I was seeing 15 patients. So 1 year is too short to quit. If you quit after 1 year, you're going to be quitting everything in life. Yeah. So you need to wait, but I say it's a multi-layered question because it depends on so many things. Your family situation, your financial situation. Do you feel you've spent all your savings? Have you maxed out all your credit cards and you can't go anymore? But it's not yet time to quit. The simple answer is no, because I don't know what kind of business it is. You need to keep going, but assess your financial situation. Know your numbers. A lot of us women open businesses and we don't know our numbers. We hire an office manager or CPA and we're like, oh, so how much money came in last week? How much money? Oh, okay, that's fine. You need to know your numbers every day. You need to know what's going on. So your business will collapse if you don't know what's going on. If you open a business, you need to know every single layer of your business. Yeah. If my staff don't show up in a day, I can go there and check in patients. I trained my billing staff. I trained myself first, then trained them. If they don't show up, probably I'll only be able to see 10 patients, but I know what happens from when patients walk in till they leave. I can draw blood, so you have to, I'm sure, where's Marianne? Marianne has a lovely cupcake shop. I'm sure she bakes a lot of the cakes herself, and I'm sure she loves cupcakes. So do what you love, know every layer of your business. Don't quit too much, but you have to know your numbers. I cannot decide for you whether you should quit after 1 year or not. I'll say no, but if your financial situation is an emergency, then you may want to talk to your CPA and reassess that.
That's great.
Yeah.
Know your numbers. Know all layers of your business. And I'll add this, you'll win if you don't quit. I heard of that also from Bishop Jakes. You'll win if you don't quit. Stick with it. Laura, we have another question for you. What keeps you motivated and positive when obstacles pop up in your life? And I'll read that again for you.
Sure, yeah.
What keeps you motivated and positive when obstacles pop up in your life?
What keeps me motivated? I'll say 2 things. Failure is not an option for me. So I just have to keep going. The second thing is my father. My father motivates me a lot. My father didn't have parents, and he makes sure he tells us those stories every time we're misbehaving, but he didn't have parents and he had to raise himself, and he had to walk to school barefoot. And so when I hear that story of how he took himself from that place to where he is now, it really motivates me. And so there might be somebody in your life who motivates you. It doesn't have to be a parent. It could be a friend. I have somebody in this audience, and I'll call her out. Ekene Onu. She's a big person. She's not a big
person.
Yeah. Ekene has motivated me from day one. Ever since I met her, she has really inspired me. There are 3 of them actually in this room, and I'll call them out. Agatha motivates me with her food. Just watching her eat healthy every day. I don't know how she has the time to do it, but she's awesome. And then Dr. Ayaba, she's such a wonderful spirit. So these 3 women, they motivate me. My father. And so identify that person who motivates you, who pushes you to do better. Not that person that you're envious, oh, I want to be like that, but who is that person that is, you see them even regardless of the obstacles, they keep pushing through. So that's it.
Thank you. Thank you.
The next question is for you, Kimberly, but I did want to honor Ekene as well. Ekene, do you mind standing, please?
Yeah.
What I'm about to say. You inspired me and motivated me to publish my book.
Yes,
my book. It was in 2016. It was a spring day or summer day. You came to my house and we were in the kitchen. I can picture exactly where we were. And I was telling you that I'd been looking for publishers, I'd been sending it out, and you're like, just self-publish. I'm like, oh, but this is self-published books don't do well. You were like, just self-publish. And because I self-published my book and the cycle of events that have gone on, that's why I'm here today. I may not always acknowledge, but I really was praying that you would come, because if I hadn't self-published my book, I won't be sitting here at this event today. So Ekene is the first time we went to the same secondary school, but I didn't know her in school. But then I went to QC retreats with my lovely, beautiful friend Claire. And remember Ekene spoke, and I was just moved by your speaking. And then I came to a few of your retreats and all that, and then you inspired me to open my books, to self-publish my books. So Ekene, if you don't know her, she's a woman you need to know. She And then now she has a podcast. You need to subscribe to that.
Every Wednesday morning.
But make sure you follow her and you follow her podcast. Thank you, Ekene.
Thank you. Ayaba, I'm just so proud of you. I mean, talk about an inspiration and grace. And can I just say that I just love that you embody that we don't have to be mercenary in business. We don't have to be mercenary as women. We can actually have success with grace. And keep doing that. I'm just so, so proud of you and so grateful.
Kimberly's question, right?
Yes.
You're next. Okay, so how did you find your way to your life's purpose? Question from the audience to Kimberly.
How do you find your life's purpose?
How did you find yours? Have you found your life's purpose? Actually, we should probably ask that first. Do you feel you found your life purpose?
Yes.
Okay, how did you find it?
When I think about, this is a journey that takes you way back, because it's a journey. It's not something that happens overnight. I can recall moving to Dallas, Texas, and wondering, what am I supposed to do with my life? I remember the tears. I remember hearing Bishop Jake say this: if someone was given the hand that you were given, they would win with it. And when I sat there, it felt like a dagger in my chest, because I felt like I had a good hand. and was grateful that God had given me the hand that I was dealt. But how, and how do I get it out of me? What does that look like? Why? And I would ask God, why did you create me? What do you want me to do on this earth? And I remember having a friend say to me, I want you to meet with another friend. And he was a graphic designer. And I thought, why would I go and meet with this graphic designer when I don't know the name of my business? Why would I go do that? Well, I did. I went and met with him. And we came up, we sat, he basically poured into me, and we studied the Word. And Artistry of Grace was born out of that. Artistry means aesthetically satisfying. Grace means, is my middle name, which means one of grace. And so out of that, and I began to start looking, what does my name mean? What does Kimberly mean? Kimberly means seeker of the truth. So I don't like to be called Kim because I'm Kimberly. That is my name, and I don't like it shortened because that's who God has created me to be. And I like for that name to be called out because it's the seeker of the truth. So that was the beginning of starting to identify who I am. And then I looked at Nanette, which I was also named after my grandmother. Her name was Nanny. Both mean one of grace. I could see the gracefulness in my grandmother, but I didn't see it in me yet. And then it took some time, and I said, oh, I can see her in me. So Artistry of Grace was birthed. After Artistry of Grace, and I saw that there would be a mission statement, touching hearts through artistic expression. At one point it was touching hearts through dance because I danced. I thought that's who I was. That's not who I am. That's not all who I am. And so touching hearts through artistic expression was a way to be able to touch people's lives however God desired me to touch them. So my purpose, I believe, has been a journey, and it's a continual journey, and there's dots. I see like, there's almost like you have all these different dots. You see these different gifts and talents and things that God has placed individually in each one of us. But how do they all come together to work into purpose? So overall, touching hearts through artistic expression, whether that be through dance, whether it be through moderating, whether it be through writing a book, whether it be through doing retreats for teenage girls, whatever that is, however he wants, whether it be going to the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy in South Africa to be able to dance and then actually talk about the Lord to young girls in Africa, whatever that may be, I am his vessel to be able to be used.
Yeah.
And that is part of the journey of identifying my purpose. And then when I moved to Atlanta in 2012, the first retreat started with A-Shop, doing retreats for teenage girls. And so now that is a nonprofit leg of what I'm doing. And again, it's touching hearts. It's touching children's hearts. So for me to have found my purpose, what I found is that it is a journey. It doesn't take place overnight. And it also starts with what's in my hands. What is in my hands that I have meaning when I say hands, what's on the inside of me that I'm supposed to do? So there's taking the time to reflect, find out who you are through your identity with Christ, connect with him because he wants us to know why we're here on earth. Thank you. So at this time, what we'll do is we're going to take 2 live questions for someone who would like to come to the mic, and I believe Peace. Well, actually, we don't have microphones, Peace, so we're good. So, excuse me? We don't have microphones. Yes. Yes. So at this time, if you have a question, you may please rise and ask. We'll give you a moment, and if not, we'll have a couple more index cards that we can answer.
Part of this, but I would like to ask a question. What services do small business owners or even big big business owners, before you outsource, what kind of needs do you have from people who may be sitting here, who have skills, and they're like, do I become an entrepreneur? Do I not? Can I help, you know, the pro bono type things? What needs do y'all have that we may not be aware of that are here that we can help out with kind of getting networked in?
That's a good question.
Yeah, take a speak.
So let me understand your question. So us in particular, specifically, do we have any needs for people who need some kind of employment or observership? Or just in general, us and other people?
I think it could be both. I was thinking more generally, like maybe here we are not aware to needs that we have skills to access that could actually aid us moving forward with our vision as well. So it's a double vision. It'll help you with your vision as well as what we're doing too.
Okay, and else that's Courtney's
That's my sister,
Yeah.
Kristen. That's what it is.
Yeah, and I do want to repeat something you said earlier, Courtney, that we should always think of we should not only think of a job as a paid job, and this is for the young guns here. You don't always have to think, okay, they're not paying me 100,000, I'm not doing that job. Sometimes you have to work for free. I've had many interns in my office. When they come in and all they're about is money, I don't hire them, because life and success and all that is much more than money. The money will come. But if your focus is 100% on money, you're probably not going to do well. You're going to lose your focus at some point. So be ready to offer your services, observe, take it all in for free. And I'm telling you, if that person is a good employer, if they see, because everybody wants a good employee, they want people to take their business to the next level. If they see that you're bringing great talents to their job, you won't have, in fact, if they told you have to observe for 3 months, they'll be hiring you after 2 weeks. Because, so you have to make sure that you're really dedicated to the job, because you want to serve, you want to advance your career rather than money. The money will come, just believe it. There's many resources, there's 6 of us here, I'm sure even in the audience. So after the event, just make sure you network. Network with people, take their contact information, email, phone numbers are a little private, but just try to stay in touch with people. I already had a few women this morning who said they want me to be their mentor, and that's fine, I'm happy to do that. So just network, find out what people can offer you, and then be willing to serve, to observe without getting paid. The money will come, but let the fulfillment come first. Let the service come first, and then will come the money.
And just to piggyback on that, so I don't have a business, but the analogy is the whole thing for the medical school application process. More and more medical schools, I'm hearing from the business owners, looking for people they recognize the authenticity, and if you're really interested in that. So it's not just the cut and paste of, I volunteered for 2 weeks and check. They're looking for a history of service, right? You're raising the next set of healthcare providers. So they're looking at the history of service, not like just before, the last year of college, you join 3 groups, you travel abroad, you do 1 month, and that's done. That's old school. Now they're looking for commitment. Since high school, since college, you're servicing, you're volunteering, you're observing. Medicine's an apprenticeship. The other thing it does is it allows you to see the inside part. So you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to have a magazine, you want to have a business, you want to have your own practice. It looks great, it looks glamorous, and when these ladies step out, it looks like it's all fabulous. But then when you observe and you shadow in the office and you see what Diablo does on a day-to-day basis, it allows you to say, is this something I'm caught up with, is something I want to do? So it allows you to see the underbelly of what the glamour on the outside looks like. It also shows your authenticity, and these people will hire you even if it turned out to be a non-paying job. They see that grind, they see that true value. And the last thing I put in my book, I was talking about, if you're in the hospital, there's the intern and the medical student who is assigned their own 2 patients because they have a max. But the one who goes back, even after the attendant is not there, the fellow is not there, they want to learn, they're listening on presentations for the patients they didn't take care of, they're learning all the time, they're going back after hours to look at stuff. And there's the one who's just there performing on command. When the Diablo shows up, they're there, they're gone, they do the bare minimum, Most people have the discernment to know who's legit. It may seem like they don't. And second of all, if you were in a hospital, who do you want to take care of you? The person who learned not just from who they were assigned, but kind of learned, all of that stuff was extra because they really wanted to. So I think if you're interested in going from, trying to be an entrepreneur or trying to do your thing on social media, observing and volunteering your time and energy with people who are doing it allows you to see what it's about, and they'll recognize the person who's, really interested in it, not just for the glam. Because it looks glamorous on the outside, but it's a lot of work behind the scenes, yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Yes, I'll get this to you in a second. In 1 moment, please. I see a hand in the back there, though.
Hello, everybody. Hi. My name is Remy. Hi, Remy. I have a question. I also have an addition to the question that was asked earlier. So I'll start with the addition on marriage, on if your spouse is not supportive of your vision to be, to grow and your pursuit of success. But I thought about it in a different way, and sometimes as women we present our drive or our pursuit for success wrongly, and I explained. So a lot of us, when you think about the most amazing woman that ever lived, a lot of people gravitate towards the Proverbs 31 woman. She was really successful. But one really key thing about her was her husband was respected at the gates because of her success, right? So for him to be respected at the gates because of her success, she must have presented her success as this is our success. So a lot of times our success looks like their failure. It's like, I'm so driven and I'm doing all these things, I'm so busy, and you're just not picking up your, you're not doing anything, you're not you don't have any dreams, and you're not, doing all that kind of stuff. And so I just felt like our success shouldn't present as his failure, and you can just do a self-check and just ask yourself, how does my success present? One of my personal goals, and I wrote it on here, and I'm so proud to say it anywhere, is I'm striving to retire my husband. I want to retire him, and a lot of in other cultures, that wouldn't be mentioned, but a lot of times whenever the woman gets really successful, because her husband is part of the success, he comes on board. Yeah. There's something that he has that you can use. Yeah. There's something that he has that can bring value to your business. So in essence, you're in business together. You're not in business against each other. It's not a competition of who's more successful. There's no richer person in the marriage. You're both rich or you're both poor. So that's that.
I'll ask you a question, though, just clarification. So retiring your husband, that's wonderful. So retiring so that you can partner together and continue your business together, or retiring so that he becomes a stay-at-home dad?
I personally want to retire my husband so he can step into his true passion and purpose. I feel like if he had more time, he works really hard. There's just no. It'd be really hard, especially because he's the only working person in the home right now. It would just be really hard for him to. I know the kind of things he wants to do, and I know that he needs time, to be able to do that and still be alive, So for me, in my own home, I'd like to retire him so that he can even add value. He already is adding value to my business. I know he can do more, and he can part of adding value to my business is actually his purpose, and he can do that with multiple other businesses.
So retiring so you can form a good partnership.
Yes. Okay. Now my question is something that I really struggle with, and I was glad to hear Dr. Yabo saying. I was like, I can't imagine going to her practice and then she's the one that checks me in and she says and all of that. But I really struggle with being a starting, budding entrepreneur, doing everything myself. It's so frustrating for me. I'm just, I look at, people like you, and I'm just like, I just want to be where they are, so I'm not doing all this stuff. But to hear you say that, so how do you make peace with doing everything? Right now, I do everything. My business is 100% online, and so if I'm sick, I don't post because it's me. If I'm everything is me. It looks it looks nice when you see it, but it's all me. I'm tired.
You need help.
So how do I help?
Some systems,
You need to ask for help. Once you start getting to that point where you're tired, it's going to affect your business. So we women, we do that. We want to maintain one business one-person business so we can keep all the profits. I'm not saying you're doing that, but I was there and I realized I had to start hiring people. The profit you're making when you're a one-person business is going to be about this small. Once you start hiring help, and you start getting refreshed, taking care of yourself, and you're then looking at the business from above, overall. And we have another key business person here, Ronke, my friend. No, daycare. Yeah, little adorables. Yeah. And I'm sure, I really want you to comment on this, Ronke. But when you first started, it could be only you. I'm sure when you started your daycare, Ronke, it was only you. When I first started, I couldn't be alone in the practice. Obviously, you need a back office, front office person. So it was just me and 2 of them, but I kept it very lean. It was just the 2 of us until 9 months when I started seeing 15 patients, then I knew it was time to hire. So if you're already feeling tired now, you can hire someone part-time. Courtney, what did I do? I met Courtney on Instagram. I messaged her. I saw everything she was doing. I'm like, Courtney, I need help. And we've been sharing emails and texts. The videographer came in this morning and said, Dr. Yabo, what do you need? I said, can you talk to Courtney? I'm a chief delegator. I don't know if that word or that phrase exists. But I outsource my life. And it may be expensive, but you're going to grow massively once you start to outsource. So do what you can. Hire someone part-time, even if it's just for a day or 2, where you just breathe, you read a magazine, maybe you work only 2 hours, and you'll see your business start to grow. But you'll have to do that. You have to ask for help.
That's good.
Yeah, and once you do that, you'll see the growth. I didn't get here just like people who know me know that I worked really hard by myself for a long time, but when it was time to start delegating, I did it, and it feels so much better.
And just to add to that, I think one thing that has helped me right now with everything that I'm juggling is I have to put processes in place. I've realized that where you have to wake up at 4 a.m., I make sure I do my Bible study, my devotion, but then I say, okay, I'm going to prepare for the radio show for 2 hours, and just build that process, and then it becomes a lifestyle, and then it just becomes easier. And then there are some services. I use Fiverr a lot. It's a low cost. Fiverr. Sometimes you don't get the best quality, but once you find that person, just stick with them, and they're not expensive at all. So Fiverr, there's another one called Freelancers, Upwork. So use that. I have a graphic designer on Fiverr, and he charges me literally $10, $15. You know what I mean? So those things, I can do away with that, but you can build those processes.
Thank you, ladies.
Can I recommend a book for you? Have you read The E-Myth? Please read The E-Myth, and that will solve your problem. The E-Myth Revisited.
I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I had the lady right here in front who had a question. Yes.
E-MYTH.
When?
Right here in the peak?
Hi. Do I need to stand up?
No, you don't have to.
Well, yeah. Will you so everybody in the back can hear you, please?
Okay. So my name is Dr. Isi. I have 2 daughters. I'm a single mom, and I'm a consultant. And most times I have to travel on Monday morning to come back on Thursday afternoon type of thing. So it's almost like I'm not around, but I have to work. I have to do what I have to do because I'm paying all the bills and all of that. And then I come back on Thursday afternoon, try to spend time with them, and then Monday I'm out again. So I feel that guilt, we've been talking about, I feel that guilt like, okay, maybe they're gonna turn out bad, or they're not gonna turn out right, or, this kind of guilt. How do I deal with it?
Can I answer that? Because I dealt with that a couple of years back. I have decided to look at what I'm doing good now and just focus on that. So I started traveling a lot when the music took off, and I felt so guilty because my son is 2 years old, my daughter is 7 years old, and the guilt was heavy. And then the Holy Spirit ministered to me and said, when you are there with them, you are there with them. And I make it memorable. And so when I travel, it's my way of rebuilding that energy because I'm by myself, I'm not stressed out. And so when I come back, I give them all that energy again. So that's how I dealt with it.
And communication. So, I totally agree. And I feel you. I've been a single mom since my daughters were 5 and 6. They're 20 and 21. And so there's that guilt. And that's why I talked about the importance of sisterhood, right? And not, you have that guilt already. And then if you go to a school thing and somebody's been like, oh yeah, that's a mom who travels. That already, you know, right? And then they know each other, they're all doing stuff together, and then you feel like, so it's kind of like double whammy, and then the kids give you the third whammy on the drive home, that you didn't go on any field trips. But it's important, so communication, I mean, literally, it's all we all want as humans is love and respect, literally everything, in marriage, in relationships, in business, literally. And when people act up, regardless of why they act up, think about any situation. It's either because they're not feeling loved or because they're not feeling respected. Regardless, break it down, your business, your friendship that lost, whatever it is. And as long as there's communication and the children know why you're going out. So you're not out there just spa-daying every weekend. You're there to give them a quality of life that you have to provide. You can't be at certain things, but like Wura said, you're present, so quality time. You can literally be physically in your room with your children for 24 hours of the day and not connect with them. There are people who have that, who are physically in a room and have no connection. So that quality, when you're physically together, and thank God for FaceTime and WhatsApp, you can actually continue to relate with them. And there's nothing like seeing their eyes. So not just talking to them on the phone. You can see, when they say, yeah, mom, everything's okay, you can see their eyes, they're like, it's not okay. Like, what is it, what's going on? So being able to communicate with them why you're doing this, they understand that, you know how old they are, but then they actually respect that. If you communicate it and they know why you're doing that, they actually respect that. My mom has to do this stuff, and she's making time for us, and when she's there, and when you come back, yeah, there are going to be times where they're going to give you a little bit of grief, and if they're teenagers, they do it just for fun. just to kind of needle you, but then, communicating with them and understanding where they are. So not automatically saying, well, I'm doing this, I'm hustling for us, but actually understanding where they're from, because they're upset too, they're hurting, whatever they need. But making sure that the quality time when you're with them, you're present with them, fully present, emphasizing why you're doing that, and and knowing that you can take the guilt off yourself, right? That's the part.
So the conversation, I just keep talking about it every time. You just keep reinforcing, I have to do this because of us and all of that.
And ask them, what can you do to make it easier for them? So for some kids, regardless of where they're going, some kids are more vocal, and you know your kids better. Some kids are going to be able to tell you exactly what they wish for. Well, I can't stop, but what would be your best case scenario? Is there a way to work offside? Sometimes do you want to come with me? They can, obviously they're in school, but being vocal. Some kids journal more and write things down. Some kids don't necessarily express what they're feeling, but but really not minimizing because that's their legitimate feeling, and you don't want to minimize or discount how they're feeling, but helping them walk through that and just communicating with them as much as you can, offside.
That's good. That's good.
How old are your kids, if I may ask?
10 and 12.
Okay, so yeah, because I have an 11-year-old, and to her points, so it's true that there's some of us that are not traveling like you are, but we're actually not there either, So I have what I call mommy and me days, and they're very popular in my house. So, and so the days that you're around, you could pick one day that is a mommy and me day, and each child gets their mommy and me day. So there's always something special about when you're around. That way you're not just focusing on the negative of when you're not around. I also have what I call my yes days. They don't know it, but anything they ask on that day is a yes. So, yeah.
Get my list down.
That's why they don't know. But, no. Yes, days are like quarterly. But I feel like the mommy and me days are just ways for us to connect. Because even though here I'm not traveling like you are, I find that I'm sort of in the same boat, I feel like I'm absent in a way because even when I'm around, I'm not present. So maybe you can think about the small things that you can do that will make the time that you're together more meaningful and not worry about the parts that you really can change.
That's some good stuff we've heard today. So we've got some yes days. We have communication. The children want love and respect, and just keep talking to them. Good, thank you.
Kenny had a
question.
Well,
I'm going to come back to you, my dear. Yes. Can I get to you? Can I have her answer the question first? Yes, ma'am.
So my question is for Dr. Yab or maybe Courtney. So I'm a new physician. I just started practicing a year now. I know I have dreams, like I know what I want to do. Financially, the pay is good. I feel like I'm getting too comfortable, and at the same time, forgetting why I really came into this. I feel like I'm taking baby steps, like CMEs and stuff. Eventually, I want to get my own practice. Dr. Yabo, how do I know if this is the time or is this too early? Because it's just 1 year, I have to be ready. So,
1 year out of residency.
Yes.
It's never too early. Some people open their practice right out of residency. If you don't open it now, is it going to be a good time in 2 years? I don't know. Is it going to be a good time in 5 years? I don't know. You may have more kids. Your kids are older. They need you more when they're in middle school. There's never that perfect time. So what I tell people is, I met with another doctor the other day who wants to open an urgent care, and she's like, should I do it now? Should I do it later? I said, you're here, we're having lunch, and you're thinking about opening your own practice, so do it now. Because, yeah, do it now, because time, again, I know we hear that all the time, time doesn't wait for anyone. At least start making action steps. Buy the book, How to Open a Medical Practice. That's how I started. I didn't go to an MBA, I didn't have an MBA, I just educated myself. I bought that book and I read it about 10 times cover to cover. I made notes. So start doing that.
What was the name of the book again?
How to Open a Medical Practice. And in fact, now there's many of them. When I was opening my practice 15 years ago, I think there were only 1 or 2 authors. Now there's many online. So just go to Amazon, How to Open a Medical Practice, buy it, and just start making a list of all the things you need to do. Which location, which demographic do I want to serve? All of that. And make it happen. Do it now. You're not going to be more qualified in 5 years. You're probably going to have more on your plate. Yeah, so do it now.
Awesome. Yes, ma'am.
So I had a question, and then also wanted to piggyback on one of the things, the question that the lady in the beautiful pink asked about the guilt. So about the guilt with the mom, there's something I always say to moms, because I'm a mom too, and I travel as well. We project what we feel on our children. And so it's so important that we don't carry guilt and shame and that energy into our relationships with them. And I really do believe you guys are all doctors. I'm not a doctor, I'm a pharmacist, but we know that when our children come through our birth canal, they are given special physical immunity, right? So just because they came through you, they are immune to certain things because of what you've experienced. And I deeply believe that the God that knows the end from the beginning, right, knew what you would experience, knew that you would be a consultant, knew that you would be a writer, whatever it is, knew you'd be a single parent, even he sees all of it and has really created our children to not only be able to survive it, but to thrive from those experiences. Those things that we see as losses and fails on our part are actually part of their own fabric to be great. So I think it's so important that we release ourselves from the guilt. We're doing the best we can at any given time. So that's one thing I wanted to at least just start with that. And then I had a question. So one of the big questions that I receive from women all the time, and I think all of you are really in a great position to answer this, is how do I begin to promote myself? Because women, we do great work, but we don't talk about the work we do. So we just have our head down and no one knows, you're the best kept secret. So how do I promote myself authentically? I don't want to just package like everybody else. How do I put myself forward in a way that doesn't feel braggadocious, but it's authentic to who I am?
I'll start, and then if anybody else wants to take over. So I had that issue as well. When I was in broadcasting, it was really easy for me to promote my brand or I was my brand, right? Like, I was my brand and I knew that, and it was easier for me to do that confidently because I had overseers that were telling me to do that. When I left broadcasting and I still needed to promote my brand, I had this hesitancy in order to do that because I didn't have somebody who's like, well, I'm just doing this because they told me to. I'm not trying to be braggadocious. You guys know I'm not braggadocious because they told me to. So now I had to really chisel away at like, okay, the people that are in my corner want me to show up. They want me to show up. And that doesn't mean me being meek. And I talked about this in one of my YouTube videos that's about to be launched, but it's not the consumer's job to read between the lines of what we offer. You have to give it to them directly. They don't have time to look through, well, what does she really mean by this? Like, oh, does she have something to promote? I don't know. Does she have a good word to say? I don't really know. I don't have it next. You know, you have to just be that trailblazer that you are. And even listening to you right now, I was like, literally, as you were answering that question, I was like, I need to get her information.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes,
yeah.
you do.
So with that being said, like, even I think with the posture that you present things, it's the way that you present something. Somebody could present the exact same piece of content, but it's the way that you deliver it that will change the game on whether somebody is interested in diving deeper. So I don't even think that you have to be worried about that. So like, maybe I'll have that conversation with somebody else that's like a little, you know, a little high and mighty.
You can always learn. You always
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what I would say, just put it out there. And I think you will be so surprised by how many people are going to gravitate towards your message. Seriously, I really mean that. So yeah, just do it. Just do
So
it.
at this time, Dr. Yabo, yes.
Yes. I do want to add that we're going to take 2 more. Who's in a hurry? Do you have a few more minutes? Because this is really important. So Agatha and Ronke. Ronke, I really want you to talk to the young ladies in here. No, because I love the idea of your business. I love the idea of your daycare. I feel it's even more fulfilling than what I do as a pediatrician. Because we women have to work.
Yes.
And we rely on people like you to bring our kids to. So you do such a wonderful job. I believe you started in your basement, and now you have
18 years.
Yes, so you've been doing it for 18 years. So you may inspire somebody on here to continue to pass on the torch. Who went to QC here, Queen's College? Pass on the torch. So we need you to please inspire somebody here to do what you do, because our kids need good caretakers like you, so we can go to work.
Ooh. Support. Okay, ladies, my name is Ronke Odusoya, and I wanted to be a lawyer. That was my life dream, and but it wasn't my passion. Somehow, long story short, I found myself in childcare through the help of my husband, who encouraged me to go into childcare. And for me, it is the most fulfilling profession I could have ever asked for, that God has blessed me with. Each day, I am blessed to touch a child. It tries my patience, because there's some kids that you're like I had one child in my office yesterday, and he fell asleep. He was playing up all day, but he fell asleep. He was tired. And I pray every day on my children. I pray that God should give me a discerning spirit and not label a child. And know that, okay, maybe this child is tired, or this child is crying for help. So I'm grateful to God that I'm doing what I'm called to do, because I don't get tired. I love it. Every day is a new day. For the young ones coming, go with your passion. Be ready to work hard. Work hard at the beginning, and then you reap the fruits of your labor. For the young lady that talked about your business, about doing everything, I can cook, I can drive the school bus, I can do lesson plans, I can do everything so that no teacher can pull a wool over my face and tell me, oh, I'm not coming to work, I can't do that. I put myself in there. But above all, don't expect to get reward in the first year and the second year. It may take up to 4 years for you to start being comfortable. But you have to grow your business by putting the money back into the business.
Yes, that's
key. You have to put the money back in the business.
Yeah.
You can't say, okay, I've made 100,000, but I'm going to go and buy a big house. I'm going to change my car. No, you put the money back in the business, because that's what's going to grow it. And make sure you have a standard, because if you don't have a standard, you fall for anything. Make sure you train your staff. You train them and let them know that they are the face of your company. It's how they project. They have to greet every parent. They have to greet every child. They have to not yell at children, talk to them at their eye level. You just have to train them so that when you're not there, you're comfortable. This year I've traveled a lot, a whole lot, but I've not had to worry about my business. Because number one, I'm blessed with a wonderful sister who's my assistant. So I'm blessed with that. So if you can't clone yourself, clone yourself.
It's very important. Clone yourself. So that, they speak, they know your language, they know how you want to operate. But love what you do. Love it. If you love it, it's not a job. Thank you.
Agatha, you're next.
I actually wanted to answer your question. The lady
For the lady in
pink dress. I travel a lot. I am on a plane to LA every week. I leave my house on Monday and I come back on Wednesday. Some weeks I come back on Thursday. That's every week. You need to come to this from a place of purpose. Your job is not a thing. You are making a living so you can take care of your home. And if you would have to change the narrative, because your kids, they actually feed off of what you give them. They don't know any differently. There is no law that says you have to be at home. I have never looked at my job like I should be doing something else. I'm not home because I have to work. I don't have a choice. But what has worked for me is having everybody just like what is important. My husband has a particular thing that he likes to eat. That when I'm home, I make that stuff. My youngest son, who now is 14, and this has been going on since he was 5 years old. We used to do party golf, which I hate because it's always hot. But I do it for him, and I would remind him. I'm like, the African in me hates this. I do this for you. So you have to, everybody ask your kids, like what is important? What is the most important thing to you that you want us to celebrate as a family? Your most important thing, you would tell them my most important thing is providing for you guys. And the way I provide is going to work. It doesn't matter where you work, whether you fly out or you work local, you have to work. That's your most important thing. And they will tell you what they want, and you just keep at it. And give yourself grace. You can't feel sad for providing for them. If you don't work, how are you going to eat? So,
Sorry, one thing. To the lady in pink. It's a lovely contrast. Yes. I'll give an example. I have a 4-year-old, and she wanted to go and see JoJo. JoJo, I don't know. Yeah. This last Thursday. Yeah, she had a show, and she really wanted to go and see JoJo. And her mom told her, said, "Darling, Eliana, I cannot take you because if I take you, we won't be able to pay the rent. That means we're gonna sleep outside." So I said, because she was talking about, so I said, "Did you go and see JoJo?" "No, my mommy said if she does it, then she'll be able to have money to pay the rent. So I'm not going. We need to have a roof over our head."
That's right.
Let your children know. Be transparent. Treat them from young. There's nothing wrong with that.
Beautiful.
Yes.
That's awesome. Well, ladies, at this time, I would like to remind you to please fill out your feedback that is in your program and return them either to Monique, Virginia, or any of the ladies who have the Girls Without Guilt t-shirts on. And I just want to thank our young ladies. Will you please all stand up? Our Girls Without Guilt.
Can you call the other ladies and Jenny, thanks. Yeah, we will talk about it. Yes.
Because they've worked really hard today. And I think it's so true and valuable for us to be able, like we've said something already today, that as we get rid of our shame, as we get rid of our guilt, as we get rid of our fear, then these beautiful ladies can also know how to walk through some of the things that we've had to go through, and hopefully they won't have to walk through some of the things that we've walked through. So ladies, come on up to the front for us, please.
Nika, we need you here, please.
Granny, Peace, Virginia, Maisie, did I do that right?
Yes.
Oh, great! Moni and Cece and Nikki. Thank you so much. Thank you, ladies. Thank you. We would also just like to thank Dr. Yabo for bringing us together. And our prayer today was that you would leave feeling lighter, feeling free, released from guilt, shame, shaking off that fear. And before we end, let's go on and stand up one more time. And we're going to make our own rhythm up. So here we go. We're going to step to the right and to the left. 5, 6, 7, step right and left. Follow me, right and left. And clap your hands. And right and left. And you know what? If you're in the office, this is what else you can do.
Exactly.
With your body. Out there. If you want to get it, that will hurt. Now take those arms up to the sky and reach down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up,
This is
down,
real
up,
cardio.
down, up, down, and rest. Today we have got you stimulated in your mind and in your spirit, and we got those endorphins working. And you should all be nice and happy. Dr. Yabo, at this time, will you please come forward and bring us closing remarks?
Okay. Well, thank you. This exceeded my expectations. Honestly, it did. I'm just so glad that you guys took out time to come out today. There's so many faces here that I wasn't expecting, and I'm just so glad you came. And I hope, like Kimberly said, I hope everybody feels a little lighter. When I was speaking in the beginning, I was talking about how we carry guilt on our shoulders, and it weighs us down, it weighs down our spirits. I hope that as you're living today, you feel lighter, even though you've eaten a few cupcakes, all the movement has helped. But really, seriously speaking, my hope for you is that you can now tackle some decisions, some life-defining topics that have been going through your mind. Do I want to open a business now? Medical practice now? Do I want to stay till later? Traveling with my kids at home, is it okay, is it not? There's so many questions we tackled today, but keep on educating yourselves. Read books. We didn't really talk about reading books today, but one way you can deal with emotional blocks is to read. Read. There's a lot of material out there, and it gives you quiet time. You're also nourishing yourself spiritually. So make sure you read books that will help you tackle this beautiful place called life, this beautiful journey called life. Because all I can say is it's beautiful. It's complex, but it's also very beautiful. Notice the sunrise, notice the sunset. Go out to the park, notice dogs walking. I was in a phase of my life where I literally didn't notice there was a sunrise and a sunset. When I was going through my divorce, and after the divorce, everything was finalized, and I was walking and I noticed I actually haven't seen this sunset for a long time. And there were sunsets, but I just didn't notice them. So don't let life overwhelm you so much that you forget to appreciate. When you're walking, look at the beautiful flowers. I do that. When I go to Chastain Park, I take in the creek. I'm looking at the creek and I'm watching the water, go over the rocks there. I'm looking at flowers. Oh, that's green, a green set of flowers, yellow. Notice the beauty in life. Put that word in your bedroom. Life is beautiful, no matter, because there's so much beauty in life. If you're healthy, we're all here, we're sitting in our beautiful colors, pink, yellow. There's so much to be thankful for. So notice beauty, be grateful, network, and just be happy. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. So I guess materials are still outside.
Yes, so
want
feel
to
please
network.
free to go out back into our lobby area here. Oh, lovely. So Courtney is doing a giveaway.
Oh, yeah.
So and we're going to be out there so you can chat with us if you have any other questions. Please feel free to ask. We can take pictures and have a good time. Thank you for coming.